Good morning, Steve. How are you today?
Hi, Phil. I'm doing really well, thank you. And it's actually after 10 o'clock in the morning here. So, by COVID rules, you're allowed to drink after 10 a.m.
Yeah. Well, it's,
So I've started.
well, it's probably why I've still got my coffee because it's, I don't know, what is it, 20 past 7 or something in the morning, not at night.
Well, you never know what might be in the bottom of that coffee cup, though, right?
Yeah. Anyway, my first question to you this morning is because we bounced this around and we haven't decided. What are we calling this session today, Steve?
I really think it ought to be about how hard it is to move to the AVC. It's not a trivial exercise. And I don't believe that a whole lot of people, even the folks at SAP, really understand just how difficult it's going to be for anybody to move to the AVC.
Okay, well, let's get started with that then. So,
Okay, sounds like a plan.
all good.
All right. So, not everybody in the world runs an SAP system. And my understanding is that SAP is actually getting a lot of net new customers. So we'll call whatever system it is, be it another ERP system, a homegrown thing, or whatever, a non-SAP system, and they're going to go to S4. As you know, they've got two basic choices they can make. They can go to the cloud. So that's the multi-tenant cloud edition hosted by SAP. And there is no LOVC engine in that software. The other thing that they can do is they can go to on-premise. And something I found out at TechEd last year that I'm not sure a lot of people know is the so-called single tenant cloud edition is actually an on-premise system hosted by SAP.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that either.
Well, I didn't find it out till TechEd last year. I always thought it was some magical, mystical thing, but the guy that gave this presentation was I don't remember his exact title, but he was like VP in charge of cloud or whatever. And he said, there's a whole bunch of misconceptions out there, and I want to clear them up. And basically, that's what he said.
Okay.
So, you can run SAP HANA on-premise or S4 on-premise in your data center, in a hyperscaler like AWS or Azure, or SAP will host it for you. And that's what they call the single tenant private cloud, yada, yada, yada. But either way, if you go from a non-SAP system to be it the cloud edition or the on-premise edition, there's really no transition tool. There is a Excel import, allegedly, that I've only seen described in a book on sappress.com, written by Stefan Kinsley back in 2017 about the AVC. But in that book, he says that there's some kind of Excel import tool where you define, for example, the characteristics, the values, yada, 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 and then you can upload them into the cloud. I'm assuming that if that still exists, and I don't know for a fact if it does or not, that there's no reason you wouldn't be able to do that into an on-prem system. But to be blunt, in that book, he actually pitches SAP Consulting as your solution more than he does the Excel. And that means it's a manual transition. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think it's mentioned in the training materials around the AVC either, so that might be right.
So let's say you're an existing SAP customer. You have the same choices. Do you want to go to the cloud or do you want to go to on-prem? If you're a VC customer and you want to go to the cloud, well, there is no VC in the cloud, so you can't do any type of comparison. You really can't do any type of transition. If you go to an on-prem system, no matter who hosts it, there are some transition tools in that S4 system that you can use, after you move to S4. So you got to go through the whole business partner consolidation, the central finance consolidation, all those other things you have to do to get to S4. And then you can decide, do I want to take my VC models and put them into the AVC?
Right.
Okay.
Yep. No, that's all good. So basically, out of all of that, what we're really saying is that transition tools are only really available for the on-premise, other than the XL import that we're not sure about.
Yep. And again, this is, as of release 1909, because that's the currently released software. Yep. I'm assuming something new and better will come in 2009, but I have no details about that. So we'll have to wait and see. So there's really, when you talk about, let's switch to an existing SAP customer that is running VC, and they now have some choices, right?
Yep.
And in my mind, the four things you have to ask yourself is, what is my level of customization? What degree of transformation do I want my business to undergo? And as a result of how much transformation, I have to think about, well, how much change management do I have to do? The more you transform your business into something that will actually be usable in the digital age, the more change management you have to do, which equates to how much time is it going to take you?
Yeah. Yep. I understand.
So let's say you've got a customized LOVC situation, and to be blunt, I don't know of anybody that doesn't have a customized VC implementation, at least at some level, right?
Yep.
So let's say you just want to move that over. You're going to go brownfield, move all your customizations into S4, and you're going to stay in VC. So that's going to look something like this, right? Your functionality is going to be the same. You're not really transforming your business. You don't have to do much change management, and it really won't take you that long. But let's say that you want to move to LOVC thinking about going to the AVC in the future, and you want to transform some of your business. So you want to get rid of those customizations as much as you can. In essence, you're going in a greenfield, at least with your LOVC implementation, right?
Yep.
So that means you're really going to transform your business, have a lot more change management, and it's going to take you a lot longer. Yep. But now let's say you want to go to the AVC, and there's a couple of ways you could do that. You could just transform your existing brownfield LOVC into a brownfield AVC. Personally, I don't have any idea why you would want to do that, because you're paying a whole bunch of money for license fees to do the same thing you did in a new tool that doesn't work the same way the old one did. I've heard people talk that that's what they want to do. Okay, so what would that look like in this scenario? In my opinion, you wouldn't get much transformation, but you got some. You're going to have change management, and it's going to take you a long time to do it.
Right.
More so than just going to LOVC. And last in my scenarios is now you want to really take advantage of the AVC. You want to use the new features and new functions, and you want to change your models and change your business and prepare for the digital world of C4 and all those other wonderful, glorious things that are out there in the digital world. That puts you right up smack dab at the top right. In my mind, I ran out of room on the slide because from a time perspective, I think it should go a lot farther out down the road. Yeah. It's going to be the hardest option that you have.
But the pain might be worth it.
Well, in my mind, if you don't do that, you got no business either going to S4 or going to the AVC.
Yeah, no, I can see all that. That's explained quite well. When I was thinking about all this morning, just with all the COVID stuff, I was seeing parallels just with the way we talk about time and curves, if you like. So to me, if I was looking at this, what we have is obviously if we start at the bottom left, there is levels of customization and we've got the degree of transformation, and I think next we'll probably cover some of this in a bit more detail, but it's also a function of what your models do look like currently, how many levels, how many configurable objects, if you like, and that has a direct impact on this curve, if you like, of amount of change management, amount of time. In the extreme situations, you have got that steep curve going up, and you perhaps don't know where the top of that curve is going to be until you get started. Whereas if you've got simpler models, then you've got the flattened curve, if you like. somewhere along the line, there has to be that ability to know what that curve is going to look like, and have the tools to flatten the curve, if you like. You can work down a transition path that is palatable to the business, I suppose, and for them to know what steps, they have to take to get there. So it's almost like rating your system. You might have let's say a level 1, which is fairly basic, to say a level 4, where you've got to put a lot of stuff in place to keep all that under control. So that's my analogy of the morning. I don't know if that made sense to you, but
Well, I think it's a great analogy, Phil, especially when you think about, okay, so there's what, 280 some countries in the world, and some of them have almost zero infection. They've got a little bit, but not much, and others are like the US that have hundreds of thousands of cases, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same with SAP. Some customers are smaller and less customized, or maybe even bigger and less customized, and they won't have a spike.
No.
But then other customers are going to have this huge spike, right? And it comes to mind that one of the basic problems with our approach to dealing with COVID is the same basic problem in our approach to dealing with the transition to the AVC. We really, truly don't have hard data to make real-time decisions with. If I look at COVID, as an analyst, I could go to the WHO's site and I can go, okay, well, you're only giving me a quarter of the picture, which, to be blunt, that's all I think they are. And when I look at the tools that SAP has provided in 1909, I would argue to you, they're not even giving me a quarter of the tools I need to make decisions. We can talk about that process now if you would like.
Yeah. No, I think it's good timing. Yeah.
Okay. So, the first thing that you have to do in this tool that SAP has provided, for every configurable material that you want to transition, you have to go create a new AVC configuration profile. And then you execute this tool, and you can run it in what's called the test mode, and it will tell you, well, this is what I think will happen. And you have to define, for example, a suffix that you want to go on to the end of the object dependency name.
Yep.
And I know that some companies are going to have a lot of problems with that, because a lot of companies have used up however many characters it is in the dependency name, so there's no room for a suffix. But in the tool, that's what you do, and then you execute it. And what it really does is it simply copies the existing object dependencies that are assigned to the old LOVC config profile, and it creates them with a new AVC processing mode, and it runs an AVC syntax check against them to make sure that that passes the syntax check.
Yep.
Doesn't mean it still works the same way.
No, and as we know, or people may or may not know, is that, for example, constraints logic is quite different between the two systems and the way they run. It's likely that the constraints will run, but the expected result could be different.
Yeah, and I would argue that in, kind of like ivory soap, 99.49% of the time, the results will be different. Somewhere out there, I'm sure, probably in the hills of Kentucky with the whistling pig, wherever he is, there's a customer out there that has built everything in a very simplistic manner, and it's knowledge-based compatible. That model will probably run just fine as long as it's single level. But everybody else, you're into this deep validation that you have to do. And today, the only way that you can validate it using that tool is to run simulation and look at it with your however many eyes you got, in my case 4, and hope that you find everything.
Yeah, no, I think that's very true. And I imagine there's an opportunity out there for third parties that will probably see the gap in the market there, perhaps, and help with some of that process. But it is a bit of a worry if it comes down to eyes looking at something.
Hold that thought. I want to talk about that in a couple of minutes. I want to show you one more thing, because this existing tool, it's a single level tool, doesn't look at any of the other levels in your bill of material that might be configurable. So if you got a multi-level configurable bill, you got to do them level by level, one material at a time. And it doesn't look at any object dependencies that are in the bill of material.
Which is, to me, a bit of a gap.
Yeah, I know.
In my opinion.
When this tool first came out in 2017 in Hamburg, I got quite upset in the presentation because the tool was not run by the customer council first. And it wasn't that I thought the customer council would have, wonderful, fantastic solutions. It's that we could have apprised the developers of some of the pitfalls that they were going to hit and some of the resistance to adoption that they were going to hit. So from a tool process, that's basically what it is. But you really, when you think about going to the AVC, there's way more to think about than just this stuff. There really, truly is. And this is just an example of it. You're going to do greenfield or brownfield, and does your C-suite buy into it? I know of a company that was saying all along, "Oh, we're going greenfield, we're going greenfield," and then the CEO came in and said, "Well, I want you to customize this, and by the way, you don't have an option. You're going to customize that." Well, so much for greenfield, right? And so much for changing your business process. And the reason that he said that is because he got all this resistance from the business.
I can imagine. I've seen examples in projects, greenfield, going down the path, and it's a big step just to get the business aligned, I suppose. And then you have got the subtleties of the integration as well between the modules, because sometimes they don't all integrate as we would like or as we expect, I suppose. So there is a lot going on. Other than
but let's say, to get back to your point about resources, right? So let's say, you've got all the buy-in and everybody's, rah, rah, rah. No, let's go find some consultants to help us. I remember hearing from many, many, many sources that an expert is defined as someone that has 10,000 hours of expertise in a subject. I would argue there isn't a single expert in the AVC anywhere in the world today other than the developers.
Yep, I would probably agree with that. Yep.
And sadly, those developers don't know the realities of implementation. One of them does. I know one of the developers was a consultant in a past life for SAP. So, he's been there, he's done that. But the reality of it is, I don't care who you go to. And even some of the people that I consider the best, and that's who I would send you to, by the way, I think they would even admit they're not experts in this.
I think that's correct, and the challenge, I suppose, for SAP and even some of the integrators is if they wear too much of a developer type hat without really understanding the approaches of VC and things like that in the first place, there is a bit of a gap. In a lot of cases, it ends up being a pragmatic process just to get to the end game that you need to get to. You need that business view of things as well. It's just not a technical product.
Well, and every time I've had an external consultant come into the company I used to work for, I always had to temper it with internal business process knowledge.
Yeah.
Those consultants had a bunch of technical knowledge, but they had zero business process knowledge, either my existing business processes or the business processes I wanted to go to.
Yeah.
Based on what my business leaders were telling me. But even those internal knowledge sources that have all that business knowledge need the level of technical expertise to balance what the external resource is telling them.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly.
That internal resource has to have the capability to influence, not only within their own company, but with the integrator and with SAP, because the AVC is not completely developed yet, and there's still an opportunity to influence it. So that's where you're looking at what is live today in 1909, and you have to know what S is thinking about and what they're going to do 2 to 3 releases down the line. Because if you build your model today based on what's available there today, and you don't know that stuff, you're going to re-implement in a couple of 3 years in order to take advantage of the AVC, or you're not going to re-implement and you're never going to get the full functionality that you're paying for, right?
I agree. Like the roadmap needs to be pretty clear so you know what's coming and what to expect.
Well, it's even a little bit deeper than that, because there can be a roadmap item that says blah blah, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't know the modeling details of what blah blah is, how is SAP planning to implement that? You can't construct your model in a way to take advantage of it. And I can think of a couple of things on the roadmap today that if I model like this, I won't be able to take advantage of them. But if I
Yeah.
model like that, I will. And one of them is C4 HANA.
Yep.
you know.
Okay.
So in the end, the question is, well, how do you know all of this crap, right? Well, you have to get educated. You don't have a choice. And I think this is going to be a subject that you and I cover in depth, maybe not on our next one, but very soon.
Yeah.
Where can people go to get this level of education?
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, as you know, like that's a space I sort of work in just with LOVCs. It has been on my mind around bringing together all the other resources that people need to know with AVC, because it's a really hard thing to, like, even for me to think about putting together a course on the AVC. It's a bit of a moving target currently, and there's time and effort into developing any of this educational stuff. So it's looking for the sweet spot where you go, yep, this is a good place to actually do it, so that it's not going to be changing endlessly every 6 months or something like that.
Well, and from the customer perspective, I mean, yes, you can take a course, and that's very helpful, but that doesn't give you system access.
No, and that's a hard thing at the moment is system access. Yeah, there's a harder bit of functionality to get access to, I think, purely for the fact that it is like an additional license and things like that. So I think that's another area that hopefully SAP will help out in some way.
So, it's interesting. When I was in the customer council, I used to get people at SAP a little bit irritated with me because that was one of my stand up and beat on the table type things, is you want adoption, you want people to help you, you want people to learn, you got to provide a system. And it can't be, pay me X million dollars and, promise to upgrade in the next 30 days or whatever.
Yeah.
People aren't going to go down that road.
No, I think there's an opportunity for them to take the same approach in some ways they're doing with the AVC, where they're sort of open sourced out the constraint engine, if you like. If they're a bit more maybe accepting of doing a similar thing with, getting the, like you say, the education material out there and making it more accessible, that would go a long way as well.
You ever heard of this they're a tiny little company, really small company out of the northwest part of the US. They're called Microsoft. They have this thing that they've done since forever called the beta testing program.
Yeah.
I don't understand why SAP doesn't do something similar with stuff like this. But whatever, we'll get into that whole debate, I think in our next conversation.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to cover on this one?
No, I think that's pretty good. From my point of view, I'm always interested in how you see the world on this, because you've obviously had a lot of experience from a business point of view, and I sort of come at it from the consulting side and think of the headaches that might be involved there. But no, I think there's a good wrap up. So I think we're pretty much done on this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, to yourself and all the folks out there, be safe, be healthy. What's the old saying? Stay safe, stay home.
Yes, that's pretty much it at the moment. So yeah, and same to all you guys in the US and in other countries that are struggling a little bit at the moment, it seems. So yeah, be safe, be well, be kind.
Yeah, last comment, if you're still with us on this video and you like it, please like, subscribe, and leave us comments. Please leave us comments. Tell us what you like and you don't like and how stupid I am.
We don't want self-isolation to be at the extreme where no one comments on anything. So, okay.
All right, Phil. Thank you for your time, man. It's always great talking to you. I look forward to talking to you again.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Steve. We'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.